We're going to open the Village of Lowville Board of Trustees meeting for April 18th, 2018. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Our public hearing is not until 5 p.m. Am I correct on that?
Yes.
So we'll open that then. Approval of the April 5th, 2018 board minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve, Mayor.
Thank you, Charlie.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Ed. Any other discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Those are approved. Vouchers. I'm just going to say one thing real quick. We have general fund vouchers that we have not had completed yet. And we will need to have a special meeting, a very brief special meeting tomorrow if 3 of us could get together just to approve the vouchers that are not here with us tonight for the general fund. Is anybody available at any time tomorrow?
I'm free before 4. If it snows or rains, I'm free all day.
Okay, I say I'm free after 4. Anybody available to come in to?
I should be if the weatherman is not allowed.
So what time are you talking?
It does. What time is good for you? He's available anytime before 4. I'm available after 4. Are there 2 others who could get together to accommodate?
I would say I probably need till about probably 11 to have them finished.
Okay. So noonish. Is anybody available at noon?
Yeah, it could be because I'm going to be leaving the meeting in here.
How many have we got so far?
We need one more.
Oh, I guess that's me.
You want to
at
be the
noon.
lucky ducky?
I guess that's me at noon.
Say 12 o'clock?
Charlie,
I'll
Joe,
eat
and
earlier.
Charlie, Joe, and Ed can be here at noon tomorrow.
Perfect. I'll be ready.
Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you.
So we'll approve those tomorrow, but today we are approving the others that are completed. Let's see, who usually reads this off? Do you want me to?
Oh,
That's all right, I can do it. Capital
ahead.
Fund
Yeah, go ahead.
in the amount of $10,387.43. Trust and Agency in the amount of $24,103.53. Water Fund in the amount of $24,978.52. And the Sewer Fund in the amount of $76,247.65. I would make the motion to approve these.
I'll second it.
Any discussion or questions? All in favor?
aye.
Opposed? Those are approved. Correspondence. We have a notice of claim from Eisenecker Funeral Home that I believe we would like to discuss in executive session. Department of Health, 2018 water system monitoring requirements. I don't know where that is.
That's the one you're looking for? Department of Health?
Yeah, but how did I miss it in here? Hold on.
Got it?
Yep. Oh. Yep. Yep.
And going back to the first one, is it a notice of claim or is it a lawsuit?
A notice of claim.
Notice the claim.
It's just a notice of claim, it's not a lawsuit, it's just a notice of claim.
This is just new I don't know if it's new monitoring requirements. Responsible for all testing and reporting, which we already know that. Do not collect samples until your operator's contacted the writer or Mr. Curley. We are bi-weekly checking for E. coli. Go ahead.
It's just our annual, it's a
That's-
formal.
it's our regular thing.
Boilerplate letter, same every year.
Yep.
Just informing us of what needs to be tested.
On a regular basis, anyway.
Our annual water quality report prior to May 31st. I think we're good to go. That's nothing new. Tom Spalding is looking to do an event to benefit the Lowville Fire Department and the American Legion on August 26th from 11 to 4 p.m. He mentioned this to me. I asked him to please send us a letter. They hope to have outdoor displays, and they are looking to close off part of it's a park place, during this event between the Legion and the fire department. So I would ask if anyone has a question about that.
Okay, where they want to close the street off. I guess my question is, are they going to close it so people can still get from Dan Street to the library if they needed to? And also from State Street into like the laundromat, and if they needed to. I mean, I guess what I'm saying, instead of, how are they going to block it? I mean,
I think they're looking to do from the Legion to the fire hall, not the entire loop all the way up to the post office there. So if we wanted to make sure that people could get in and out of the library, I think we just give them feedback. So here's the library, right, with the parking lot.
well, that's what I
Here's
was
the
thinking.
Legion.
Just,
They would just block off this area, allowing people to still come in.
and then the
I'm
same
right.
up here, people could come into here.
I'm assuming people would drive in their driveway here to come in and park here. What I feel they have envisioned is things on the edge of their parking lot up to the park, and then from the fire department possibly back down that space of the thing. They would be willing to provide an insurance rider naming the village from both organizations if we require it, which I told them we probably would. Anybody have questions or suggestions or yays or nays?
I just want to say, I don't think Randy has a copy of this, and I think they're asking for child ID. I don't know if he's aware of it.
Yeah, I do.
Oh, you do have a copy of it? Okay.
I don't have a problem with it as long as those other businesses are able to maintain their businesses for the day.
Okay.
No, I didn't.
Is there any issue as far as the police are concerned with this request?
Oh, yeah, they're gonna block it off themselves?
I believe that's the
It's not
intent.
gonna occupy our manpower then, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Other than this ID program?
Yep.
As long as they're going to put barricades or whatever up, and usually I don't have an issue.
Are you gonna have any issue from the state of any kind or no?
It's not a state.
Hello?
So they're gonna affect traffic pulling in and out off of State Highway. Typically you do like a Google aerial image. They can show where they wanna do it, what they're gonna block off. But if they're gonna block it right from Dan Street, they are gonna block out the library for the day.
Well, I think that that's what Joe's saying. We can tell them essentially where
Right.
they can set up those barricades.
If they nail that down and move that up, I wouldn't have an issue as long as they're not out there on the main road. That would create an issue.
I mean, you got people turning in, and they're gonna find out once they get in there that it's closed, and they're gonna have to go up, and they're gonna have to turn around, and probably in the library's lot, come back out, and that's very narrow in there already. So it's going to affect the state highway. So I would think that they should let DOT know as well.
Okay.
Mhm. Thank you.
Anything else?
Might I suggest you put some signage by the, have them put some signage by the entrance so people have at least a chance to know before they get stuck in it.
In the state right away. In the state right away.
Again, we're not talking state.
They can put it on the steps of the Legion if they have to. Anything else that you want me to reply to him with? Do we wish to be sure that he's able to accommodate these requests before giving our blessing?
Oh, yes.
Okay. That's what I wanted to know.
Oh, yes. Please.
It's got to August 26th.
Yeah, it's got time.
He's got plenty of time. Okay. All right. I'm actually going to bring up one thing really quick before I forget, because I did not write it down on my little list of things to talk about. The Salvation Army has called and asked about putting a sign of theirs on our welcome sign into the village. I was going to go out and take a picture of it today so that we could all have a visual. I believe there's one area that might be available on that welcome sign. I'm not for sure. However, we had discussed putting a farmer's market for the months, and that it was on Saturdays from whatever to whatever on that sign in the past. So I just kind of wanted to put out some feelers. They obviously are more prevalent in doing things in the community. They don't have a specific office per se, but there is an organization that's very active through the Salvation Army, and I guess I would just ask for your feedback or your thoughts on that. And
Is that the sign that has all the names of the churches and all that kind of
Correct.
stuff?
Yep, churches and
I
organizations.
don't see an issue with that.
Mayor, is it the one spot that's available, is that on both signs? Both ends of the village?
I don't know.
'Cause I think somebody took their signs down to have them reproduced, so I think that spot is taken
I think we were,
or spoken for.
right, yeah, we're gonna need to go through that, but I will finish that by probably Friday, because I have another thing to discuss, but you'll be getting that, an email maybe of the pictures of what the signs look like currently, and then we could discuss that further at the next meeting. Any other correspondence I'm unaware of?
It'd be the same size as the other signs, right?
Correct.
Yeah, so
Yep.
there's room for it.
Okay. On to unfinished business. 5 streets.
So, we're out to bid, as everybody knows. Bids are due May 1st. So, as we discussed at our last meeting, we've had quite a bit of interest, so that's good. As far as unfinished business under that, I don't know, can we get back into the EAF yet? We got the letters back.
Yeah, I planned on doing that tonight.
Oh, okay. That was one of the things I had on my list to take care of.
Okay. What's EAF, please?
Seeker. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, that's all right. Long form. How did I miss that one all this time? You
You
want?
want to do that now?
Well, I was just gonna say, I didn't know if you were getting it
So-
readier.
Yeah, I'm ready. So look, you have part 1 of the environmental assessment form was amended to correct the reference from River Street to Water Street. So there wasn't really a big substantive change in what you thought the project was, but we needed to correct that. It's been circulated to the other agencies. and see if they wanted to take lead agency on this, and they consent to you having it. They've all consented to letting you go forward. Right? Your next step in this is to complete part 2 of the environmental assessment form, which I have here. And remember, we're not reviewing the entire project, we're just reviewing the change. All right? So it's a pretty small piece of the puzzle that we're reviewing. With that in mind, I'll go through these questions with you. You can stop me at any point, but it looks daunting, but we'll get through it quickly. So the idea here is I'm going to ask you some questions. We'll first answer them either yes or no. If we answer them yes, then we have to go on to the subordinate questions, in which we'll ask whether the impacts are no or small impact or moderate to large impacts, and we'll talk about it. So the first is impact on land. Proposed action may involve construction on or physical alteration of land surface of the proposed site. Well, yes, that's going to happen here, right? So that's a yes. Proposed action may involve construction on land where depth of the water table is less than 3 feet. I don't know, Ryan, is there any area on Water Street where we're concerned about that? No? All right. Proposed action may involve construction on slopes of 15% or greater. Don't think we have that there either. Proposed action may involve construction on land where bedrock is exposed or generally within 5 feet of existing ground surface. There is some of that there, but would you consider it to be a small impact or a moderate to large impact? I'm guessing it's kind of small, because you're basically digging in areas that have already been disturbed to one degree or another, right?
Not doing anything new.
Will involve the excavation or removal of more than 1,000 tons of natural material. I'm going to say no. Proposed action may involve construction that continues for more than 1 year or multiple phases, and that is anticipated here. But the question is, do you consider that a large impact or a small impact? It's just the size of the project that dictates that. Proposed action may result in increased erosion, whether from physical disturbance or vegetation removal. Probably will be some during construction, but again, unless you tell me otherwise, I'm going to mark it as a small impact. Proposed action is or may be within a coastal erosion hazard area. Pretty sure that isn't the case. Will the proposed action result in the modification or destruction of or inhibit access to any unique or unusual landforms on the site, such as cliffs, dunes, minerals, fossils, or caves? I'd say no.
Not that we anticipate.
Impact on surface water. The proposed action may affect one or more wetlands or other surface water bodies. I don't think that's really anticipated for Water Street. Impact on groundwater. Proposed action may result in new or additional groundwater or may have the potential to induce contaminants to groundwater and aquifer. Don't suppose we're anticipating that. Proposed action may result in the development on land subject to flooding. I don't think so. Proposed action may include a state-regulated air emission source. I don't believe we have that. Impact on plants or animals. Proposed action may result in loss of flora and fauna. Again, I don't think that's anticipated here. I don't know how much hunting they do on Water Street. Proposed action may impact agricultural resources. I don't think that's an issue for you here. Impact on aesthetic resources, land use of the proposed action are obviously different from or in sharp contrast to current land use patterns between the proposed project and a scenic or aesthetic resource. I don't think this is any different than what you do anywhere in the village. Impact on historic or archaeological resource. Proposed action may occur in or adjacent to historic or archaeological resources. Not aware of any. Proposed action may result in the loss of recreational opportunities or reduction of open space resource identified in any adopted municipal open space plan. I don't think we're losing any parkland or anything to this. Proposed action may be located within or adjacent to a critical environmental area, which is something specifically created by DEC, and I don't think we have that. Proposed action may result in change to existing transportation system. Don't think so. Proposed action may cause an increase in the use of any form of energy. Anticipated. Proposed action may result in an increase in noise, odors, or outdoor lighting. Well, you probably have a little bit during construction.
Of noise.
All right. So, some questions on this. Proposed action may produce sound above noise levels established by local regulation. Possibly. But do you consider that to be a large impact? It's obviously a temporary impact.
Right.
Okay. Proposed action may result in blasting within 1,500 feet of any residence. I don't know if we're anticipating any blasting in this area.
Is it possible with our drillings for
Yeah.
rock?
There is. So the question is whether you consider that to be a large impact or a small impact. I'm thinking it's probably small.
I was gonna say small. It's not like we're gonna be blasting all day long every day.
Right.
I mean, once or twice or.
You mean like over
Proposed
my way
action
for
may
3 weeks?
result in odors for more than 1
Is that a
hour a
large impact?
day.
Should we put large impact?
Also possible, I suppose, during construction when you're running heavy equipment, but the question is, do you consider that a large impact or a small impact? Again, I'm going to say small unless you tell me otherwise. Proposed action may result in light shining onto adjoining properties. I'm not sure they're planning to work at night. so
No.
I don't know if that's an issue. Proposed action may result in lighting creating sky glow brighter than existing area conditions. Again, I don't think that's anticipated. Proposed action may have an impact on human health from exposure to new or existing sources of contaminants. Don't think that's
Not that we know of.
anticipated. Proposed action is not consistent with adopted land use plans. I think it's exactly consistent with what you have. Proposed action is inconsistent with the existing character of the community. Again, I think it's consistent. Now, based on all of that, by the way, disagree with me if you disagree with me, but I'm assuming you don't.
Anybody have any issues with how we filled that out?
I do not.
I'll say everybody was quiet. I think we all agree.
So,
Mark this on your calendar.
so you have certain choices to make here. Although based on your answers, I think one choice kind of points towards one choice. The first choice is that the project will result in no significant adverse impacts on the environment, and therefore an environmental impact statement need not be prepared and a negative declaration will be made. Second choice is although it could have significant adverse impacts, those are avoided or substantially mitigated due to certain conditions, and we'd have to state what those are. And the third is that it will result in a significant impact, and an environmental impact statement has to be prepared. Since you didn't identify anything as a major impact,
So the only thing would be the sound during construction, but is that
well, that's temporary, right?
right?
I'll make a motion to declare negative declaration.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you. We'll get that up.
No, fine.
So we're good with that?
I'll get it to you.
That's pretty cool.
I think here's the resolution I just passed.
Do I need to sign that at all?
You will when I get it up to Wendy. I need to fill a couple of pieces in on it, but I don't want to anticipate too much.
That's right. So maybe
It'll be up here.
Friday morning? Unless,
As long as you have it by the time you award bids, you're okay.
oh,
All right, but yeah, you're okay.
okay.
This is what they
I'm just not gonna be here next week.
Change, right?
You sign it if I can't get to it.
This
How's that
is-
sound? You get to sign all the important stuff anyways. My in-laws are taking us on a cruise for their 50th anniversary to themselves. No, just all the adults. Their 3 children and their spouses and them. I'm so excited. I can hardly contain myself. Anything else on 5 streets?
I'm just gonna ask him easement.
We
talk about that.
we got a couple in, but I think
Three
the
more in.
ones we knew were coming in. Our appraiser is working on the appraisal, so we can get to the next step in the
I think we need to discuss a couple more things in executive
There are
session.
two that we certainly need to discuss in executive session. They involve acquisition of land, so it's appropriate executive session item.
As the Pomonville one with,
That's part of it,
part of executive session?
please.
Okay. All right.
You may take action after executive session based on that, but yes, I would want you to discuss it in executive session.
Okay. I thought we agreed on that one last time, but I'm not sure.
But
Okay.
You may have. I mean, we're trying to put paperwork together on that. We're just waiting for one small piece to complete it.
Okay. Yep, that's
I
fine.
can give you the update of executive.
Okay. Thank you.
Forward.
So we'll do that in just a few minutes. Craft MEU.
I don't have anything new on it yet. I did talk to Ray Meyer about it, and he's only he got me something, but I think they're trying to work out. I think they're trying to work out some language issues. I don't think they're substantive so much as they're stylistic.
I just wanted to make sure. So Brian Western had called me yesterday. We did send New York State the letter, the very generalized letter of intent that both parties had come to a general agreement. I believe that the conversation that Brian and I had was that we essentially, with the things that we were looking to change in that specific memorandum of understanding, we didn't know if we needed to have that continued with the specifics.
I would think it would be to everybody's benefit to
Okay.
settle whatever you can settle, but sure call. I mean,
So that's a question for the board essentially is, do we wish to continue with the current document that we had started with specifics in it? We also discussed that somewhere down the line, we're going to be asking them for the term of our repayment for our bonds, that they will be willing to continue payment so that we can essentially pay the bills for the projects that we're doing, like we did with the phase 1 project.
right.
So do we wish to continue with this one currently that we were working on? Or do we wish to almost break it down a little bit more piece by piece as we go through the process? That was a question that Brian and I honestly had for each other.
But it's a judgment call for you guys, yeah.
You know what I mean? Because at some point in time, because that doesn't have anything in it about helping to repay the loan that we're taking on while they're here, where if they were to leave in 20 years, that last 10 years, they still help us pay off those bonds. So,
Well, it's mentioned in the MOU that we would have to come to agreements, that we'd have to have separate agreements for those as we got into the capital project.
Right.
It was referenced in that way, but, not having the specifics of those projects, it wasn't really beyond that, other than saying it in general terms.
right. So maybe we all just need to get together again and sit down and see
Maybe,
with Kraft, us,
yeah.
and attorneys and just lay it back out again and see where we're at with things.
If you'd like, I can try to set that up.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody in disagreement or agreement or comments?
Sounds good.
Okay. Phase 2 sewer upgrades.
Yeah, so we had a meeting on April 2nd with DEC. Really what prompted that meeting was another meeting with Kraft Heinz on March 5th, I believe. which basically what came out of that meeting was Craft wanted to reduce their BOD loadings and their current permit with the village. Roughly a little more than half, Tom, right? Went from 3,900 pounds a day down to 1,500 pounds. So that kind of made us step back a little bit and look at phase 2 in terms of what to do. Essentially, Joe Zara and Tom and I spoke about potentially keeping the lagoons. Basically reducing that BOD made that an option. What we didn't know at that time was, what's the speedies permit going to look like in 10 or 20 years, okay? And only the DEC would know that. So we set up a meeting with them, went very well. They didn't provide a whole lot of information as to what the speedies might look in 10 to 20 years, but they're willing to run some calculations on the Black River to give us something to shoot for in regards to ammonia or total nitrogen removal. So we're in the process right now of completing an application and submitting it to them so that they can come back with what the limits might be and what the village should plan for. So we're still working on that worksheet for them. Thomas, you want to add anything to that?
No, I think you summed it up.
Yeah, it was
That's
pretty fruitful. Mayor was there.
Very receptive.
Right, helpful as usual.
Yep.
So keep plugging away.
We just still have more. We don't.
Stay tuned.
You guys have more number crunching to do and see what capacity levels could be with different changes and things of that nature, and hopefully get us a cost even of what it would look like financially to redo our current lagoons with a liner and maybe even increasing the size of one of the lagoons versus the new plant, and to compare and contrast.
Right.
So.
And then of course, if DEC comes back and says, the ammonia could be a maximum of X, and lagoons just don't do ammonia removal. It's not in their wheelhouse for
Right.
treatment. So what can we do downstream maybe of the lagoons to accomplish that? And there are some options to look into there. So.
Yep. That we would want to essentially build into our phase 2 design.
Yeah, at least plan for it.
Right.
If not, do it now. But certainly, usually when DEC imposes new limits, there's usually grant money associated through the WQIP program, Water Quality Improvement Program, to help offset costs. No different than disinfection that the village is being required to do.
Any questions or comments? Okay. Fire hall. So, met with the fire hall, went through kind of the hopes that, well, I shouldn't say the hopes, the direction that we are encouraging with any fire department expenses essentially need to be shared by all of those whom they serve, right? That's what we've discussed.
Yes.
I asked them, and Tom, if you could get me, one of the things that we discussed at, not the April 5th board meeting, but the board meeting in March, was, even adding a sanding, sweeping, and plowing agreement to what that does cost the village residents to take care of that property. So we're wondering, I guess I'm at the point where I would love to have some numbers to be able to take to them, which is what we would possibly charge them for that service, which we would be responsible for, say 38% of that, because that's our share for the fire department, right? To take that number to them. The other thing that they had discussed, because I said a 10-year lease, they really would like a 20 to 25-year lease. They feel, if they're caring for the building as their own, that would be, whatever they're doing to the building, they expect to last at least that long when they make improvements. and they would be much more comfortable. You know, some guys even said a 30-year lease. So I'm going to throw out a 25-year lease that can be, you know, someone from the village can be the one to walk through on a yearly basis and see any improvements. But I think that that is a term that they would be much more comfortable with versus a 5 or 10-year lease. So that's what I have. I don't know if you want me to take anything back to them of what our thoughts are or where we stand with things. They obviously would be more than happy to, I shouldn't say bear the burden, but they would be more than happy to incorporate all of the expenses of the building and maintenance on that building as part of their budget. The other thing, when we went through our insurance policy a few weeks ago, Kevin Townsend had mentioned that, you know, we should really look at having the fire hall do their insurance through a, you know, a kind of under the village's auspice, but it would be their policy that they currently have, which may save them a lot of money. I have suggested that they look into that. Figured it can't hurt anything, and I'm not sure that they've followed up on that yet. I've kind of questioned things a little bit one way or the other, but if we were to ultimately, let's say their expenses per year were to increase by, let's say, $12,000, but they were to save $10,000 on their insurance policy, would almost be a wash, if that makes any sense. So I guess I would ask for thoughts and suggestions and where to go from here with them. Charlie, I can see the steam.
Put the fire out there.
I think they just stay the course.
Does anybody feel that 25 years is really unreachable, or I know, Joe, that you wanted much less than that?
Originally, I wanted 10, but I might be able to live with 20, but I just don't want to reach out there too far. Because like I say, you're committing future boards to this.
Maybe.
Maybe. Well, I don't expect to be around that long.
Why would you say that, John?
Maybe, is that their concern about a future board might change the way they want to do business with the fire hall? I mean, did they express that to you at all?
That ultimately is the underlying fear, yes.
Okay.
You know, that's the underlying fear, and that they have no problem, you know, let's say we just did the roof, but let's say in 15 years it needs a new roof. You know, that is anticipated to be a very long-term investment on a property. So you know, they just recently redid all of the tiles in the ceiling, which you would hope would be I'm going to say 15 to 20 year expense, maybe, you know, depending on.
Might last longer now that there's no smoking indoors.
Right. You know, I think that they are just looking to secure, obviously, their investments in the building that they feel are necessary, and you know, and they don't frivolously. We all are in full agreement, I think, that they don't frivolously spend money.
No,
and they take very good care of the building.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't think we have any doubts in that aspect of life that they would not do what they needed to do to make sure that it was sound and secure.
I think if they go ahead and make sure that all of the communities that use their service are paying for all of the costs,
Right.
I don't have a problem with 20 years. I'm not sure I'm thrilled about 25, but I could live with it if it was insisted upon. I could live with 20. I'm with Joe. I was thinking 10, but under the circumstances, we have a really good relationship with them. I could go 20 without any problem at all.
Okay. Gentlemen?
Yep, I'm fine with it.
Say that again? What?
Well, all costs would include whatever the village, whatever our costs are, the sand and
Sweep and plow.
sweep and plow and all those kinds of things. That's part of the total cost that should be shared with everyone who uses
Right.
their, so we'd have to figure out what those costs are and make sure we let them know so
Right.
that they could charge everyone.
Including
point.
man hours.
Right. Well, it would be like the contracts that we have for the school or for the housing or
Yep.
whatever else.
Yeah.
And if that ultimately came off of whatever we paid in, however it needs to work out, or if we pay our fee and then they reimburse us for our service. I don't care either way.
Either way, it works out all right. Just makes it more fair for us.
Correct. In our budget.
Right.
Do you think that would be too much trouble to come up with?
I would say why don't we just run it? I mean, if I would have told them $5,000 for this winter, we would have lost our shirts like we did for all the snow removal. So why not run it annually? Run it for the whole year. This is what your bill is this year. Then nobody gets hurt.
Yep.
Right, but can you come up with an estimate of what that would be for me and let me know? That way I can forward it on to them. Thank you. That's all I have for the fire hall. Attorney Gibo, how much do we have for executive session? I know you have to leave at 5:30.
I know. It's a case that was on at 6.
Yeah, that's all.
Adjourned,
Okay, okay, thank you. So I'm just gonna finish.
Yeah,
Okay, I say I don't think we have a lot more left here. I just wanted to make sure that we weren't upsetting you. Forest Avenue, have we heard
Forest,
anything?
yes.
Guys can beat their-
Matter of fact, Dennis Mastuska was in my office this afternoon,
Yay,
and he will be finishing up the project, and he said he would come and present his findings to the board personally himself at our next meeting.
so our May meeting?
Yep,
Okay.
that way, if there is anything misconstrued,
Yep.
he's pretty much done, and I'm pretty much aware of where that whole thing is at, but until he stamps it, we'll just leave it at that. So,
Okay.
but he will be here next month.
Thank you. Number 3, Wind Farm. We heard
no
anything?
updates. I mean, it's here because it's on the radar screen, but there's
Okay.
no updates on it.
Joint Planning and Zoning, how are we making out with that? Do we know?
Want me to?
Yes, please,
Okay.
if you have any updates.
Yes, we do.
Everybody should have a copy.
Just a few days ago, I think on Monday, we received a draft of an intermunicipal agreement with the town on the joint planning. I had a few minor comments, which I shared with Ray Meyer. He's given me a preliminary response. There are, however, some issues in the agreement that your board and their board need to work out between you. And I talked to Joe about this a little before the meeting. Things like, what's the percentage split going to be on the budget? Where are we going to pay board members? What sort of a budget are we going to work with on this? Because you both need to know when you're getting into financially here. So, I think you guys need to sort of flesh those things out. I think on the town side, they're still trying to build a little bit of consensus for this. I would, if I were you, take a close look at how the membership is split between the village and the town on the board and see if it's satisfactory to you. Basically, it's 5-member board, town's going to appoint 4, but one of them has to be a village resident, you appoint the others, so it's
Most of them are.
ultimately, it's 3 town, 2 village, or at least that's what it could be. I don't know as if that's a bad thing, but that's something you have to decide. One of my comments was that we should have terms for the board members, because right now it just says they're going to be appointed, doesn't say if they're serving 1-year terms, 2-year terms, 3-year terms. Typically, they'd serve 5-year terms on a 5-member board. One of them would come up each year, so that we're trying to follow that pattern which is set up in the village law for these sort of boards. We'd stagger their terms, and we'd have to decide how we're doing that. I think it's just pull straws for it. It doesn't make a bit of difference. But it needs to be specified, I think. The board will internally each year select its own chairperson and vice chairperson and secretary, although it's anticipated that secretary is probably going to be Kathy Manning,
Yep.
and that she's going to do the administrative work for the boards, which I think was part of what you were looking for here, so I think that's
Yep.
all fine. I think it could be stated a little more clearly in the agreement than what it is, but that's the intent. And so I think those are, you know, the three major points that I had with it. But again, we've only had it for a couple of days. You guys have just seen it probably for the first time, so.
Correct.
You know, you're going to want to take a little time to look it over. But I would think that it's a fairly straightforward agreement. There's nothing in it that's, I think, very complex. Hopefully, we can move this ahead to some sort of conclusion, hopefully by your next meeting.
The overall dynamics years ago when we did this, when it was like this, I think worked well.
I think it'll be very beneficial to have their zoning officer overseeing the application process, being able to assist people in moving things forward and deeming their applications complete will take a lot of headache out of our village office.
Yeah,
She's
I
very
think it's-
trained and she's very knowledgeable, and that's what she does.
It's nothing against your office staff, 'cause your office staff is very good at this.
They've been wonderful.
But it's just that it stretches them too thin.
Correct.
We probably could also put this towards insurance.
Well, that's all she deals with. She doesn't have to deal with any of the other everyday business.
Right, right.
Can we, during executive session though, I do have a couple numbers that Randy, the town supervisor, kicked around, that he's going to propose to his board members tomorrow. And I just would throw them out to our board and see if they're agreeable to those kind of numbers or not. But I don't think it should be out in the open yet.
Well, I mean, you can talk internally amongst yourselves about that and see where you want to be. I think a lot depends on where the town's going to come down on this. I think Randy's got a harder task of reaching consensus on it than you guys do.
My original suggestion, and I've discussed this with Joe, was at each meeting, you look and see whether you're discussing village, inside the village with the village codes or the town codes, and at the end of the year, you take the percentage and that is what you pay. So you're paying,
You're making it awful difficult.
Yeah.
I mean, you're making it much more complicated than it needs to be, I think. if you
I don't
do
think
that.
you'd save that much anyway in the long run, to be honest.
right. But if
Because
it,
likely is that at each meeting, you're going to be discussing something from the town and something from the village. And then, so I spent 27 minutes on the village and 36 minutes on the town. Let's add that up and divide it out. I mean, you're making it,
oh no, I
I
just
think you're
meant,
making it more complicated than it needs to be.
okay.
I mean, I just pick a percentage, set a budget,
I know what it was years ago.
yeah. And, you know, you can always revisit the percentages, you know, periodically.
I think the plan was to, like, each year, take a look at it.
Because, you know, you might have a period of time where where there's a lot of activity in the village and not in the town, or vice versa. And so from year to year, your percentages might need to be adjusted to reflect that. But, you know, if you went through another big expansion of craft, the
Looking
village
at
side
right
of it
now.
might be big,
Yeah.
all
Why do
right?
we have to pay more?
But if it's.
Oh, I've
just-
got a different number there too.
But by the same token, if there was major development in the town, it might be the town side. So I think you just want to keep an eye on it and just every year sort of make a little adjustment to it.
Why do we have to pay more? Do they anticipate that we're gonna have more applications?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be hard to come up with an objective metric. If you did it just based on the number of applications, well, my application, for a variance for my garage is not the same as Kraft adding onto their plans, right? But they're both a single application.
Right.
All right, so I don't know, I think it's gonna be hard to define a metric that gives you an easy way to do that division. So I think you have to just sort of, just make your best shot at it.
Are they really anticipating increasing the fee per meeting
Yeah, I have some numbers on that.
to this?
Well, it's been discussed, it hasn't been agreed.
Nothing's agreed, it's just some numbers been thrown around.
If you're asking,
That's over 3 times the amount that we pay our current board members. And we're gonna be helping to share the cost of 7 people on the board versus 5 people on the board. I can't, no way.
But you're going to have, of those 7, 2 are yours.
Right.
But we're still gonna have to pay.
So you're only paying for
60%.
2, whereas now you're paying for 5, right?
No, we're gonna have to pay whatever percentage we split this cost at.
but you're gonna have less board members too, because you've got 10 right now, man. So you're gonna be down to 7, if we go with 7, see what I'm saying?
No, because they have
No,
a
they're
zoning
gonna have-
board
they
and a
wanna
planning
pay
board, so there's gonna be
percentage.
14 members versus 10
Well,
members.
maybe you could separate,
But we're not-
so maybe you could separate out what you pay members from the rest of the administrative expenses. And you would simply pay your members, they would pay theirs. And then you take the rest of the administrative expenses and split them on some percentage.
If it's gonna be that much per board member, I don't want a 7-person board, I wanna stay at a 5-person
That's what they're
board.
looking at,
Yeah, this is fine, yeah.
maximum for board members, for chair, per meeting.
And one of theirs is gonna be a village resident, and then we put in one, so we're gonna have, like Mike said, we're gonna
I
have.
mean, you got to work out the numbers, that's not a legal issue, that's your issue.
A lot depends what they're gonna say tomorrow, because they got their meeting tomorrow, and it'll be on their agenda.
So just for the record, even if it was split 50-50, we would be paying $70 more per meeting for the village's half for board member fees.
Okay.
I don't understand.
It's just a proposal of this plan. It's nothing is decided. That's why you have to talk to them about the numbers.
You'd be basically paying $6 more per member for regular members.
And adding on 2 more members.
Because of the alternate.
Right.
It's not 70, it'd be like 42. More.
Well, correct me, Joe, if I'm wrong. They've got 2 5-member boards, and we got 2 5-member boards, so we're gonna have a decrease in the numbers.
If we split that in half, excuse me, it's 60 more.
Yeah, but I'm subtracting what we're already paying.
Well,
Okay.
we'll need to talk about it and
I mean,
negotiate that part of it.
We'll see what they have to say tomorrow, because I know 2 of their members are looking for numbers higher than that. But that's what Randy and I have kicked around.
Okay.
And I say that one is a max.
Do we know what is the cost of the zoning officer? Do we know what she makes on a yearly basis to estimate what we're gonna?
I don't have it with me tonight, but I do
Okay.
have that number.
Do you
'cause I
mind
looked it
emailing
up.
that
I
sometime?
looked how much that cost to run that whole office over there.
That'd be great.
Both the planning and their office. I don't have it with me tonight, but I do have those numbers.
Okay.
'Cause I went and got them from Gail.
If you could just check on her office, that'd be nice to know, just so we know what we're doing.
Mayor, it's a little bit after 5. Do you wanna
Perfect.
do something else?
We will open the public hearing.
We'll know more tomorrow.
I make a motion to open the public hearing.
I second it.
This is for our budget, correct? Here's my paper. So Dan opened, Ed seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Public hearing. Public, what do you got? The general fund is still not looking very happy. Been worse than it did before. Water and sewer fund are okay at this point. We did make adjustments at our last meeting. To what we have printed out, I believe, right, Joe?
Yep.
I know that we also, Ed and I met with Dan Myers today in regard to double play and covering our summer rec services for us. In our general fund, we had taken those from 30,000 down to 25,000. For the recreational program. That obviously is going to impact the length of the program for summer rec and the length of free skate.
Can I just give you a little bit of other news on the water side?
Absolutely.
We're starting to get impact notices from the assessors in Lowville and Watson with respect to the assessments on your water properties. And generally speaking, they're down.
Oh, wonderful.
So in Watson, it appears that they're down in the range of about $35,000. Not quite so much in Lowville, but still down a couple $1,000s in Lowville. Hopefully that's going to mean you'll pay a little bit less in taxes next year than you did this year.
Thank you.
I haven't gotten an agreement yet.
Okay. Thank you. So I think that we all really need to be aware that whatever we do, we may need to revamp our summer rec program again this year. I know with what we paid for last year's program, what were they, 5,000 in the hole or something, 3,000 in the hole?
Yeah, 2 or 3.
We discussed other ideas today, of one with swim lessons, rather than it being twice a week for the different groups, maybe because the pool is an expense with the lifeguards, and not to discredit that swimming isn't an important life skill, but maybe doing twice one week, once the next week for the swim program. That would alleviate one day in the pool for them to have that expense on a weekly basis. What else did we discuss? We discussed, I need to still send an email to Randy Shell. That's a program that we pay 76% and the town pays 24%. Where maybe if the town were to be willing to pay 30 or 35%, that budget amount could go up because our amount would stay the same. Because this year I think it would be, was it $9,000 or something? That's what he was
I
saying.
think it's, 15, 25, yeah.
Is that
Ours
right?
is 19 and theirs is 6 maybe, is that something?
Right, but I meant for Double Play's budget for.
Oh, yeah. And I think too, I'm on, as a board member on Double Play, and I think Dan's ultimate goal would be to look at this as a county-wide rec program, which I think they have expanded somehow. I think the big deal is that I tried to express to him is how we're gonna pay the bills, because I wanted it to kind of open other people's eyes what sort of shape we might be in the future. So that was one thing that, another avenue we're kind of looking at is other, like you said, the town, and then maybe some other towns to combine in that.
And another thing too was something that we discussed, I know we've discussed it for the free skate program, is do you start charging families a fee to be able to use the service? And have them essentially make up the difference that we're lacking in our ability to fund these programs. Where let's say it's $25 to sign your child up for a 5-week summer rec program. I know that I paid a ton for childcare. That $25 is equivalent to 1 day for one kid. From what I paid when my kids were being babysat. You know, my childcare bill was more than my mortgage bill. So, you know, if we're asking parents, even if it's $30 to sign your child up for the 5-week program, you have a sibling, it's $25, the next sibling is $20. But at the same time, you know, we also discussed, would you be excluding those kids who really need the program that it's set up for? Because that's always been what we've fallen back on, is this is a service. I'll tell you that the water aerobics and is it aqua jogging?
Yeah.
Is that what it's called?
I'm not sure the difference. But
The ladies who attend that in the summertime have continued that all year round. That's a very viable program. You know, I don't think this program is a bad thing. I think Double Play did an incredible job last year with this program. However, I think if we reduce the $5,000 from last year to this year, we're making it a 4-week program, not a 5-week program. And I told them too that if we needed to add a fee onto this to make things meet, we mentioned that we would do it publicly on behalf of the village who is providing that program. It is not Double Play who's adding on that fee. It would be the village adding on that fee for your children to participate.
Is it correct if, remember right, Pratt Northam next year is taking their funds away from this program?
I don't know.
I think it is.
And this year, Double Play didn't get funded for their Pratt Northam grant because they already give us the grant through our program. Even though their person worked at the Port Leyden summer rec 3 days and 2 days at our program. So I guess that's something just to bring to your attention, is whatever we approve in our budget, we're obviously going to have to go back to the drawing table for summer rec, which will be the thing that's most immediately affected with these changes. You know, and is it a bad thing that kids pay a dollar every time they skate, or they get a season pass of $20? And you know, there are kids who are there every night after school. That's what they do. It's a safe place for them to be. You know, they're interacting with their peers. Janet Lee is a wonderful supervisor of that program. You know, at some point, if we're looking this way, at some point we have to either cut the programs and let someone else completely figure it out, I feel.
If I may say, there are some children where $1 would be a burden.
I don't disagree with you at all.
There are some.
You know, and Dan did say that there are ways to give certain families scholarships if they needed it.
They do give some, yeah.
Or if they're involved with social services, They have funds that they can pay for programming for them. So there is a way around
Okay,
some of this.
all right.
But you certainly don't want to deter anyone from signing up because there's a fee associated.
No, and I'd be an advocate to expand the program to outside the community if there was some way that somehow the burden could be helped. And I think most parents would pay a small fee, and there's, like Charlie said, there's some that $1 would be too much, but, you know, the Little League program has a setup where you can't charge somebody as a donation. You can't alleviate somebody from signing up, and somehow maybe we can make something like that work here based on financials or what have you. So I like the idea of expanding that program because I know what it means to a lot of the kids in the community.
Krogan, I guess, runs their own, but Dan had mentioned that he had quite a bit of interest from that area just because you've got Lowville as a central hub anyways, where you're bringing kids, you know, you're going to work in the summertime, you're bringing your kids.
Right.
So I think everything's on the table. I think we're gonna get to the bottom of it.
But I just wanted to mention that because that was one of the budget discussions that we'd had today of how this is going to affect the future. Any other public? Welcome.
One thing also, when speaking of the future, I believe the $4,000 that we get from Pratt Northrum that goes into this program, I think this is the last year we're going to get it.
That's what Dana said. I think so too.
So that's going to have to be made up in another year.
Right. So any other public comment on our proposed budget? Any other thoughts or suggestions from the board or the department heads? Okay, let's hurry up and pass it quick because I can see Thomas thinking.
I would move to close.
What percent increase in the budget or decrease, or is it flat?
Tax increase? There's two ways to do it.
Yeah, we've gone over our 2%. I don't have a calculator with me.
This budget's figuring a 2% tax rate increase.
But we went
Just
over
on
our
the general
2%.
fund, not on the water or sewer.
Right, but we went over our 2%, I thought. That's why we had to make the thing.
Yeah, that's why we had to pass it. We knew we'd be over.
So 2%, so confusing. 2% with the village budget does not equivalent to 2% per resident. If that makes any sense.
There's more.
So the assessed value is what kind of makes it a little murky.
This is where we're at 2%. To stay under the cap tap, we have to be at these numbers.
It says 9%. No.
Well, that's a dollar amount per thousand. And this is what your dollar amount per thousand is going to be at 2%. And this is what we were in 2017 at 906.
So we didn't go above the 2% increase. Look.
Not last year. Well, maybe we did last year. I'm trying to think. What was made the year before we didn't. But this is what the revenues would be right here. 1,573,000. This is, and these numbers I got from Pam, so before she left. I don't know if anybody else has got this sheet or not.
I can figure that out for you, Nick, and let you know. It's right on line 2. But yes. Here. Sorry.
Yeah, that's fine. And that, the number that we're taking out of fund balance is big change too.
Kinda where we're at.
Changes that we did.
Right.
So it's
This is
probably
with a
closer to
2%
150,
increase, where we're gonna be at.
Yeah.
I'm guessing.
I hope so.
Plus the two.
Make a motion to close the public hearing on the budget.
Thank you, Charlie. Thank you, Dan. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's approved.
I make a motion to accept the budget as presented.
Thank you, Charlie.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Ed. Any further discussion?
Is that what it is?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. So we did that. CSEA hearing, I believe it's been
As you know, we have
scheduled.
a hearing, more or less a conference with Public Employees Relations Board, CSEA, next Thursday. I have heard from the business agent for the union, who has asked if we would like to put that off and maybe meet between ourselves and see if we can resolve it. They've suggested a number of days for the meeting. I've forwarded that on to Donna. I know there's not
20
too many of those dates that work for her, but
The
there is one in
21st, I
May.
think.
May 21st works for her. I haven't gotten back to the business agent for the union until so close to this meeting. I thought I'd talk about the meeting.
Who's the business agent?
Brenda Harwood.
She's away for 3 weeks.
Well, she's given us dates of May 15th, May 18th, May 21st, May 22nd, so that's pretty consistent with what you're saying.
Yep.
So it's up to you. I mean, to be honest with you, you're going to spend more money than it's worth on this if you really want to push the issue, in my opinion. I think makes sense to sit with them and see if you can come to some sort of an agreement.
Are they willing to settle for 50%?
Joe, I have no idea what they're willing to do.
No.
And I can only tell you that they're willing to sit with you and talk with you and see if you can work out an agreement. But I have no idea what they're willing to do. I'm not their attorney, they don't confide in me. But in the meantime, if you want to meet, that's fine. Otherwise, we can still have the hearing with Herb next Thursday. It's just a matter of what your preference is.
Based on what the issue is, I think it's crazy to have to go to PERB. I think we should meet with them. Because this is a negotiation issue, can we discuss this somewhat in executive session?
We can.
I make a motion that we discuss this further in executive session.
But you're not making a motion to go into executive session.
Right, no.
Okay. So we'll save this for executive.
And Ed, I'm gonna make you track me down for this.
Okay.
I wanted to add just a couple things, actually just one thing, because I talked about double play with the budget already. Zoning changes. One of the things that I worked very hard on for, I think it was in the first term maybe, was doing a lot of zoning changes. Since then, there have been a few things that have popped up that are questions or things that our boards have maybe said, you know, we really should define this more and rework some of this. One of them is an area that when we did the zoning change, we declared it as a neighborhood commercial. There are quite a few larger businesses in that region who technically are unable to expand because it is now that zone instead of, let's say, an auto commercial zone. But I'm hoping the first week in May, maybe you and I can sit down and go through some of these things to have a lot of discussion on what maybe we could propose to the board, or even propose to our zoning and planning people to get their feedback to be able to propose to the board.
Okay.
But there are some language things that needed to be changed also with, like, one of them was a subdivision that happened. There are a few things that have popped up that I have in a pile on my desk. So tag your it to make me sit down and do this and get this done before it's too late.
Okay.
One of the things moving forward, if we change the zone, I realize that our due diligence is to only require us to notify in a public hearing, but I think with the residents that are affected, I think a letter should go out to all of the areas announcing a public hearing with some detail, so that they certainly can have a chance to show up. So if we're looking at Shady Ave, whoever's going to be affected by a zone change should also get a letter.
Can I get a copy of your awesome map, because I've lost mine before you leave?
You know?
Thanks.
Is that the one you're looking for? I think you've got it.
But I want one of those without writing on it, but I'll find it. I don't know why mine will not print out big like yours is, and I don't,
Make us
right? So,
Make copies
yeah,
of it.
thank you, Dan. Because I can't find mine and I can't get it printed out the right way from the internet. Thank you.
What's your schedule?
So just to let you all know, and Wendy, do you mind just adding that to our agenda for, I'm gonna say unfinished business? Because,
For May?
yeah, please.
Who's going to talk with the one business that has concerns down that we are moving forward? Do you want me to? You call me?
I don't care, I can call and leave another message and let them know that that will be
Is being addressed?
clearly discussed at our next village board meeting.
There will be a public hearing.
There'll be a public hearing set probably for June,
Okay.
and we'll move on from there. But that's something that has come up in the past. I believe he wrote us a letter a few months back. It just was never followed through on our agenda. New business. Any other old business that I'm forgetting? Unfinished business? New business, DPW surplus equipment.
I make a motion that the list prepared by Mr. Cobb presented to us today be declared surplus.
I would second. Any further questions or discussion?
We declare that surplus, Tom. Are you putting that on Auctions International or selling it outright?
Depends on what you guys want to do. I was planning on doing Auctions International.
That's good.
That's the only question I have.
And then we can go from there if we don't like what he finds out. But let's do. My motion is to declare this year 2000 equipment listed there with the mower and tractor and decks surplus equipment.
Thank you, and I believe I seconded.
Yep.
Any further questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's approved. Budget amendments and modifications.
I make a motion to approve those said budget amendments and modifications for both the water and the sewer
I'll second it.
as presented.
Thank you, Charlie. Thank you, Ed. Any other questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I also must report, today I sat down with our retired Judge DeFone. Almost official, right? As of maybe tomorrow, when you're...
No, as of April 1st.
No, because you've been still trying to figure out clearing out your checkbook.
Getting somebody to sit down to audit it would.
We didn't have the right paperwork.
Who's got it, dude?
I did it. I have audited January, February, and March statements. We went to the bank today and transferred whatever was left in his fund into the new judges fund. She has been notified of that. When we're done with this meeting, I'll be typing my official letter and signing it that I have done the audit. It appears to be, well, it is correct, because obviously I audited it, that the funds have been transferred to her account.
We can put the pups away.
Right? I put the thing that I got from the bank is in your folder, and one to start her folder, with whatever funds were between the two accounts. So, just so you all know, his books are up to date when we get the zero closed account. Nicole's gonna let me know. I'm just gonna sign off that yes, it's a zero balance, it's been closed, and that will be good to go. So, thank you for your service. And I realized after the fact that your term with us and your service to the village was slightly overlooked by your wife working here for the majority.
To last that long.
The majority of her life. So I'm sorry, but obviously we thank you for all that you did on behalf of the village and your actions and your relationships with those who came to visit you on a regular basis.
Amen. Amen.
Or an unregular basis. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
So that is all set. So whenever we do the next audits, obviously we'll have the other justice accounts to be looking at. So, but I'm not sure if January, February, March have been done in our other books. So we just need to check into that. I didn't have time to do that, and I'm sorry. That was one of the things I was going to do this afternoon. But the mom button took over. Okay. Any public comments this evening? Anything at home? Sorry? No, it's not, but it's okay. We won't forget you, Henry. Joe Q. Public. One thing that we did have a little glitch with that I almost threatened to Henry with was that we were almost unable to come up with a quorum for our last planning board meeting. I told Henry I was going to appoint him at this board meeting as a planning board member for the village.
I talked to Doc Cook after
Yeah.
you mentioned that. He said he would make every attempt to be here on the 7th of May for that meeting.
Okay, I'm
He's
hoping.
not going to Florida yet.
Right. Don has
He wants
had
to get down there
some
and check his house, but he's not.
some back issues that he's really having a difficult time with.
You're going to have a public hearing for the outdoor sports thing.
Right.
And then Tony Harper, whatever
Correct.
we talk about there.
Right.
So maybe you want to hold off on.
Yeah, I need to ask a question to you, Mark and Joe, before you leave about a meeting that I had today. Sorry. In regard to planning board, because there was something we were told that we should do, and I'm not sure we can legally do it. So I would love to have your advice on that. Any other business? Randy? Get out of here.
No.
Can't.
Oh,
Meeting for
man.
executive.
Yeah.
I was so proud of myself. Look at
I
that.
know, I was watching.
So I
Move
need
to-
an executive session with you to discuss collective bargaining issue with CSEA, to discuss a claims issue, to discuss property acquisition related to the Five Streets project, and also to discuss a personnel issue involving the performance of a specific individual.
Correct.
Man,
That's
Leia's
one
not
more.
mad here.
What's that?
Oh, they weren't.
I have contract.
Do we need anything on liaisons tonight?
What kind of contract issue? Because contract isn't just a reason.
Mine's just a contract renewal, but to discuss it.
For
with the board.
Bargaining agreement?
Bargaining agreement, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, do we have any, I'm sorry, our committee reports were not on here. Do we have anything for planning board, ZBA? I don't think we do.
Nope.
Fire department, I already talked about that. Town, we already covered that.
County.
County, anything on that aspect?
Personnel, Tom Campo, do we want to discuss the flow chart that you presented? That's a negotiation issue, we probably could discuss that in executive session.
Yes,
It's a salary adjustment,
yes.
okay?
So I'll make the motion to go into executive session for all the stated reasons by our attorney.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And I even paused the microphone.